Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap EBI 10, the 10th year anniversary. We are also going to talk about all the names that have been announced for CJI, talk about a little bit of news, and we are also going to preview the Polaris 28 GP. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host.
I'm Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We're also going to recap One FC, Kade Ruotolo's MMA debut versus Blake Cooper, and Mikey Musumeci versus Gabriel Souza, an interview you should definitely watch.
Yes.
So let's get right into it. We have a bunch of announcements for CJI and also have a bunch of announcements for ADCC because a lot of folks that were previously committed to ADCC are now in CJI. We are not running out of spots is the best way to put it, but we're starting to get
we're moving people around.
Yeah, we're starting to get a critical number of athletes that have moved over from ADCC to CGI. I think we have, in total, 32 slots, and I think about half of those probably have been met, if not more at this point, for CGI. Because we have the two divisions. We have under 80 kilograms and over 80 kilograms. And right now, so let's do that right now because we're in news. This week, or maybe this week and last week between the shows, we have Renato Canuto announced for under 80 kilos for CJI. We had Owen Livesey, a name who I can never pronounce correctly, announced for plus 80 kilos.
It's Livesey.
Livesey. Yeah. We have Victor Hugo, really interesting wrinkle there, announced for over 80 kilograms. And we have Gabriel Souza, over 80 kilograms, Lucas Barbosa, the Hulk, for under 80, and Mateus Diniz just got announced for under 80 kilos as well.
For under 80 kilos.
Which we were thinking about this before. I was like, that actually kind of makes sense because he was 88 champion.
Oh, okay.
So it's like that makes sense. It's still like a bit more of a cut for him because he was under 88 kilogram champion for
probably
ADCC.
Day before weigh-ins, and he's like, fuck it.
ADCC also changed. We talked about this last week. Actually, no, we didn't talk about this last week. ADCC finally, Mo got approval to change the weigh-ins from Friday, Saturday, Sunday to just Friday. And it's something he's pushed for a couple of years now, going, look, we're getting diminished quality. Athletes don't like it because they have to weigh in every day, especially if guys that do absolute but get eliminated on day one don't have to weigh in Sunday. They have this extra advantage, and that's why he also pushed for trials. Trials is only a day before weigh-in now because, look, we're getting a better quality of athlete now because the guys aren't killing themselves to weigh in morning of.
Yeah,
they make weight once.
I don't think anybody's cutting a shit. You think shit time?
Absolutely. You saw the guys at trials. You see the guys the day before their weigh-ins. They are all sucked out because it's the World Championships. Yeah. Every 2 years, you're going to cut as much weight. Look at Ethan Charleston.
I guess so.
Guys are cutting tons of weight. So I like that. Again, I've always liked the weigh-in rules. Like, hey, you have to make the weight. Yeah. There's no allowances. You have to make the weight. But I really do like when you give the athletes the time to then we get a better quality. We get a better product. I'm in the stands. I'm watching it. I want to interview these guys after. I want them to have the ability to go perform as best as they can with the weight cuts, with all the drugs they're on, all of that. I want to see the best quality of athlete in this sports spectacle that I watch.
You also want them to get the IV with all the drugs in it the night before. So
I want come game day for the athletes. I want them to be the best athlete that they could possibly be because I'm watching an entertainment product. I don't want to see I want to see who got the best Kimura. That's what I want to see. I want to see them go and perform to the best quality. And so I like that ADCC has moved the weigh-ins finally to the Friday-only weigh-in. And I hope that as a result, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to get less injuries and we're going to get just a higher level of performance.
The injury potential for being dehydrated and going into something.
Because guys know, especially the guys at 66 and 77, some of those guys are really cutting hard weight. That takes a toll on the body, and we see that sometimes day two where it's like, man, that guy gassed really quickly. Oh, right, he had 2 hard weight cuts back-to-back to make that weight. I mean, we've seen guys, remember, there's a video of, I think, Gio Martinez, or maybe AJ Agazarm, we've seen guys, there's pictures of them on the treadmill or on the Stairmaster, and you're they look like a skeleton making those weights, and so I appreciate it.
Seen people in my personal life that has done that before.
I mean, we've yanked you out of a bathtub before.
Yeah, that's true. You guys yanked me out of the bathtub.
Had the whole team is she going to die? I'm not sure we're going to get out of this bathtub.
Yeah, we're going to try. I made weight.
You did make weight, and it was you were tiny.
I was tiny.
So, announced for ADCC as a result, not necessarily announced for all of the people pulling out and changing, but We now have a bunch of new people that have been officially announced, and some trials winners that finally got their poster as well. We have Vinny Magalhaes, plus 99, former champion, ADCC, getting the invite back. We have Ryan Aiken, who we'll talk about at length today for the EBI recap, because he just won EBI, the 10th anniversary absolutes.
Yeah.
He has been announced for under 88. We have Andre Porfirio at under 88 as well. We have Alex Enriquez, the under 55-pound reserve, now into the World Championship, which I'm really excited. I really have enjoyed watching Alex Enriquez.
I really enjoy watching her too.
I think she has a really neat game, and I'm very, very excited to see how she stacks up at the world level. In ADCC, she's already been at the world level outside of ADCC, but there. We have DeAndre Corbray, who is the winner at under 66. He's there. Speaking of DeAndre Corbray news, Ethan Crownston was announced at the upcoming Who's Number One to be going against Cole Abate.
At Who's Number 124.
Yeah, the one that you're going to.
Yeah, the one I'm going to.
In like, 2 weeks?
Yeah, like 2 weeks-ish.
Something like that in Austin,
Something like
Texas.
that. I'll be there. I should be front row, so you should be able to see me. I should be able to wave at the camera.
I'll give you a grappling. Make sure you have the Grappling Run shirt on.
I'll bring the
just point to the podcast.
I always bring the shirt.
And point your face, point the podcast.
Yeah.
So Cole Abate is out. Do we know why he's out? Is he injured?
They didn't say. He did Worlds, and I think he was out real fast at Worlds, right?
Oh, yeah, he got taken out by, was it Fabricio? Took him out, or was it the one before Fabricio?
I think it was the one
Josh
before.
and I talked about this last week, and I forget
he
who
was
took
taken
him out.
He was taken out quite quickly.
Like in the second round or first round.
Yeah, which makes me think that he might be injured.
Yeah.
No, he was taken out by somebody that we didn't recognize. That was what it was.
Yeah, and that happens every year at Worlds. I think it's his first Worlds as a black belt, so it's not super surprising.
No.
But he is now out as well versus Ethan.
So that makes you think that maybe it is an injury.
Hope he's not. He just got off a leg break.
Yeah.
So I hope that we're not having residual from the injury, but as a result, we're going to get Ethan Crownston versus DeAndre Corbray for that matchup, which is actually a really exciting matchup. I think both guys are trials winners. DeAndre, recently won the trials. Ethan is a multiple-time trials winner. It'll be fun. And now, because Ethan is no longer at ADCC, he is in CJI. There's not a possibility for this match to happen at ADCC.
Oh no, he didn't. Okay,
what?
For whatever reason, I thought DeAndre switched, but he didn't. He's in ADCC.
Yeah, he's in ADCC.
Yeah.
Did Ethan switch?
They haven't said anything about Ethan.
Oh, sorry. We don't know if Ethan switched yet.
Oh,
I
don't think Ethan's been announced yet.
Because Ethan would be a small guy for under 80 kilograms. So sorry, I may have misspoke there. Ethan might not be out of ADCC. So this is we will see it 66.
We just kind of all assume that they are because they're B team.
Yeah,
and because
most of the B team guys have dropped.
And we feel like maybe there's going to be a little bit of a. A
little bit of drama,
a little bit of an issue.
as if you've watched the internet this week, there seems to be a little bit of drama between some of the runners for the two promotions back and forth. If you want to get into more of that, you can go and find it. It's not really that interesting for me to talk about on the show. You can kind of go and draw your own conclusions for what's going on between those two promotions currently. If you're curious, go and find it. It's all over Instagram.
Yeah,
you shouldn't have a problem. But that'll be fun because that potentially is going to be a match that we could see at ADCC, and those are always really fun in the lead up to ADCC. You see, like we saw Wagner and JT like 2 weeks before ADCC one year on Fight to Win, and it was like they're in the same division. Are they really going to do that? And they did it, and it was awesome. So I like seeing that. Also announced, we have Patrick Gaudio for under 99. We have Mateusz Szynski at under 77 kilograms.
Yay.
You're very happy about
I'm
this.
very happy about that. Yeah. I also just found he did a class at B team, and he taught He's done it before. I think he's been B team a couple of times. Yeah, and he was showing the ankle lock that I think that we saw in PGF. That the kid that was like 17 years old.
Jed. No.
Yeah, no, Jed.
What's his name?
Thompson.
Jet Thompson. Yeah.
We saw him hit a bunch of times. I'm almost positive it was the one that he shows on the one B team video.
Okay.
And I saw it and I was like, that's the one.
That's the guy.
You know, just because.
You've been a huge Szynski fan for a long time.
Because his straight ankle lock is ridiculous.
It is crazy. That shotgun straight ankle. I mean, he broke Jed Hughes' foot with it. Like, we were all like, that's crazy. So.
Oh, I should have asked Nikki Ryan that question. I should have been like, what was it like?
Oh, you literally yesterday took a Nikki Ryan seminar.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in the outro unless you have pieces to add here.
Unless I add things in. But I should have asked him about.
You should have asked him a bunch of stuff.
I know.
I should have given you a reporter and done an interview with him.
In my brain.
I didn't realize that you were doing that seminar until you were at the seminar because you texted me, I'm on the way to the seminar. I went, oh yeah, that's today. I should have given you a recorder and asked you to interview him. But
anyway.
Whatnot. We also have Natalia DeJesus announced for the ladies plus 65 kilograms. And so that's ADCC. Those are all announced for ADCC. Yeah. We've kind of bounced back and forth here. So moving on to CJI.
Yeah.
Craig Jones versus Gabby Garcia
and
announced.
Nikki Ryan did at the seminar say that it is actually happening.
Actually happening.
That it is actually happening.
You sent me a video of Gabby Garcia.
Yes.
So what did Nikki Ryan say?
Nikki Ryan said that it's actually happening, and then he made a comment about how he hopes that Craig Jones throws it so that he loses, so that he's second place.
None of that would surprise me.
No, none of it surprises me either.
But apparently, so he's paying Gabby Garcia like $180,000 or something to do it.
That's what the internet says.
And then Gabby Garcia posted a video that was just her in a very tight white shirt.
Yeah.
Laying on a bed full of $100 bills with stacks of $100 bills like, on her chest.
Yeah.
Just saying, when you get a match with Craig Jones.
Yeah.
Or just like repeatedly saying Daddy Craig Jones or something like that.
It was like take a match with Daddy Craig Jones.
That's what, or
and
something
she just
like
keeps
that.
on repeating it, and I'm like, oh.
And it is.
I sent it to the podcast group because I was like, this is how I started my morning. You guys need to join me.
Yeah. So again, the big thing we've talked about for years is we love seeing athletes get paid.
Yeah.
Go get your money. It'll be really. We have not had a high level intergender match in many a year.
Yeah, it's
it's
hilarious
because and that's the thing is with Craig, you don't know. It's like, is he gonna throw the match? Like, I'm not gonna put anything by anyone at this point. It's like it wouldn't surprise me at all for it to be like a super legit match.
It also wouldn't surprise me if Craig Jones didn't come out in like a man hammock.
It wouldn't. Nothing.
Or
there is not a thing that could happen in that lead up to the match that would surprise me.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Like if they announced that they're engaged, like nothing would surprise me in the lead up to that. So that is all the news that we have right now between CJI and ADCC.
Did you release or did you say the rest of the names?
I said all the names.
Okay, you did.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You were here.
I know, but you jumped around.
I did jump around.
And when you jumped around, I just want to make sure that we covered.
My bad. You can go look at both Instagrams, and they have them all announced this week. Yeah. But it should be fun. We have some, again, both divisions for both events are still looking great. Yeah. So super happy about it. So, Miranda, any other news this week? Those are the main pieces of news that we have.
No, I think that's most of our all right. Most of our stuff.
Let's move on to the recap. Honestly, let's do EBI second.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about ONE FC. We had the MMA debut of Kade Ruotolo versus Blake Cooper, but let's start it off with the grappling portion of this, which is Mikey Musumeci versus Gabriel Souza, a rematch.
Yes.
From what, 3 or 4 years ago?
Flow.
It was Who's Number One. It was the big.
Oh, was it Who's Number One?
It was Who's Number One. Okay. It was that big tournament that they ran. Where it was like a 2-day tournament with like 25 matches each. It was a really good tournament.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Mikey Musumeci had COVID during that, and he calls that out during the post-fight interview where he's very upset with Gabriel Souza.
Yeah, I made Maine watch or listen to the post-fight. Because
I listened to like the first 2 sentences of it. I was like, okay, Mikey says whatever he says. And Miranda's like, no. You sit here and you watch the whole thing with me.
Like it goes on and on and on, but he goes off about a variety of different things.
Mikey doesn't like catching shade, and he makes it very clear whenever he does. He did a very similar thing versus Gio Martinez.
Yeah.
When he got mad about Gio Martinez in that matchup. Mikey's an emotional guy. He likes respect. He likes that kind of traditional martial arts respect and straightforward. Like that's how the guy runs. Dude, he looked amazing in this matchup. We previewed this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we talked about what happened in the first match was allegedly Mikey had COVID, but Gabriel Souza very quickly passed Mikey Musumeci's guard, went to north-south, hit a north-south choke.
Yes.
Pretty quickly, it was a very, very nice sequence.
And it was the normal Gabriel Souza. He does a lot of like outside passing that the bullfighter pass. And
Torianda.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's very good at doing that. This time,
and he broke it down when he breaks. It's beautiful how he talks about that sequence.
And this thing, and what surprised me about this match, kind of more than anything, was that Gabriel Souza shoots a double straight into Mikey's guard, and that kind of surprised me. Because I know Mikey kept on picking up his leg because he wanted to get taken down because he can't just sit; he has to be taken down, but to shoot a double straight into the guard was probably not the best. It
was interesting because, again, we know I've kind of thought back and forth about this since we watched it. If you think you have really good outside passing and you know Mikey's not going to play a close guard on you.
Yeah.
He's not going to do what his sister does and kind of lock it on the post guard.
So you think that's what it was?
I think it was
thinks
probably
that the outside is the best position to be put in?
Because he knows Mikey's going to try to do exactly what he did here.
And I guess he could push him
loop the leg and invert.
And I guess he could push him into the cage because as long as he's in full guard, you can push him up to the cage.
Tactically, he shoots deeper than I thought he would.
Yeah.
And then Mikey does what he does. He opens the guard to invert for the leg. And this is when I thought Gabriel Souza would make a bunch of space, but he seems to sort of continue to play into that range and pass and try to pass.
I think part of it was he thought that he should keep Mikey against the cage. And
so he pushed in really hard.
And so he's like pushing really hard into it, but Mikey still finds a way from that position to somehow invert into the leg.
Yeah.
Like, which
he does pretty
good on him
quickly,
because he's getting crushed into a little hole and he just kind of turns.
But that's one of the things we've always talked about Musumeci is so good at. Like, his inversion game is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And even like not being roosterweight, he has won the roosterweight world championships before.
He weighed in 144 pounds. I took notice of how much they both weighed because I was like, because I always assumed Mikey was smaller, but I think
he is smaller.
Well, he is, but he weighed 144, so he probably didn't cut at all. Maybe Gabe Souza cut.
Gabriel Souza I think does cut to make 45. Historically, because he does if he does ADCC, he's a silver medalist at ADCC
at
66 kilos, which is about 145 pounds. So, but I think I don't know, but where I saw that, but I think he does cut to make that. I do not think Mikey cuts to make 145.
Yeah.
I think he walks around about that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But Mikey is so good at being able to scoop the leg and then invert and like fold through.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the leg. He goes to he's kind of looking for like a Mikey lock, that top side ankle lock control that he looks for. And then Gabriel Souza starts to roll away. And Mikey does there's a bit of a battle here in the legs. Gabriel Souza is sort of looking for his own leg lock and looking to roll through. And Mikey does a really great job of beating him essentially in the inversion and getting behind what we see Pato do a lot, which is the matrix guard.
Yeah.
But Mikey doesn't play it like Pato plays it. Mikey plays it as a calf slicer. Is there anything else before we get into the finishing game that you want to talk about? It's a pretty quick sequence, and it's just a beautiful counter sequence because Mikey goes for legs, Souza counters, then Souza gets his leg locked up in the calf slicer here, and then starts to go for a topside toe hold, but he can never kind of bang the toe hold open because it is the low side leg in the position. Yeah. So Mikey's leg is not the one between his legs.
I don't know if, in all honesty, it was probably the smartest idea to try the toe hold from there. I think because he was at that position, as you even explained it to me, like the calf slicer's in, but he's off to a side enough that it's not as knee damaging as you would think.
It's less off to the side, and I kind of explained it like that, but it's more that to finish the calf slicer from this position, and it's the traditional position where your leg is behind their leg, and you fold it so that their leg is up next to your thigh, and their knee is pointed down, and then what you traditionally do, and what Mikey eventually does here to finish it, is you grab at the hips and you pull them back, you kick away at your knee behind their knee, and it separates their knee. It's a knee splitter, but it's called a calf slicer. It can also attack the calf and the quad, but a lot of times it hurts the knee.
Your patella tendon.
What breaks first is the knee.
Yeah.
Well, not the knee itself, but like the ligaments in the knee, and then the calf slicer just hurts a lot as that's happening.
Yeah.
But the damage piece is usually from the knee. But that pressure doesn't get to a position where you're usually going to tap if you're like flexible like these guys are, until you can actually get sort of their hips to your hips.
Yeah.
And so Gabriel Souza is doing a good job of actually not getting his leg all the way collapsed into his thigh, of actually keeping his leg extended a little bit, because instead of sitting directly in front of Mikey, he's to the side, and that makes the angle of the leg greater so that Mikey's leg behind his knee isn't crushing it
and you're
down.
using some of your hip flexion at that point to kind of take it, rather than just going straight back and being all knee.
And if you do that, you can make that angle large enough, you can kick through and actually escape and do it like a running man or a couple of different escapes out. Typically, the running man is like the most common. You'll running man out, you'll get away from their hips, and you'll turn and spin, and then slide your shin off so you get out of the way. So I think he's grabbing that toe hold to like try to like get something in the eyes of the ref that like, okay, he's going for something too, because he keeps like banging it down. Yeah. But he's banging it down into a position where he can't flex Mikey's leg enough to actually have good pressure on the toe hold itself. And then Mikey just kind of makes the adjustment and gets the calf slicer and finishes it.
Yeah.
There's not really a whole lot. Gabriel Souza is never able to get out of that enough to get free. Mikey grabs the hips, and then there's the finish. And then Mikey goes in the interview where basically like he's been talking shit for years since he beat me the first time. I had COVID. Flo forced me to compete with COVID at that event. I wasn't healthy. I am this good. I took this match because I wanted to get it back because he's been talking that shit. That's essentially what he said.
And then he goes into the baby shark refusal.
Oh, yeah, basically, like, I don't care what you take. I don't care what you're on. You still won't fight me. You won't sign the contract.
He accuses Baby Shark of not taking a match against him because he couldn't take drugs.
Because of the drug testing rules.
Yeah, the drug testing rules.
But it was also very funny. Mike, like, he wasn't like a dig when he said it. It was like, I don't care what you take. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I just want to have this match. And, like, he just mentioned it. That was sort of Baby Shark's excuse. Yeah. And it was very funny to have that not be, like, Mikey's excuse. It was just like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to beat you anyway. Yeah. But, man, Mikey Musumeci, and it was really telling. Because Mikey's he's typically a very respectful guy. Yeah. He does get a little emotional now and again, especially in matches where he feels disrespected. Like, typically, we've seen him do this before. It was just very funny. He was like, I beat him, and I beat him easily. Yeah. And I was like, I submitted him easily. It was like, ooh.
He also dropped a bunch of F-bombs, and
then he apologized for it. It was very funny. Again, I love watching Mikey. He is a phenomenal technician.
And then Baby Shark got online and talked about it, too.
Oh, did he? I missed that.
Baby Shark responded and said, come to ADCC. We can have our match first round. You know, if you ask for it, Mo will put you in, blah, 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 blah.
I mean, because Mikey's has gotten invites to ADCC. Yeah.
He says he's afraid to.
Twice?
Like, you're afraid to do this, and you just need to come into ADCC and go against me, basically. That's what Baby Shark said.
Yeah, I mean, then he made $50,000 here in this match that he gave 10 to Cobrinha, 10 to Cobrinha Jr.,
yeah. And none to the other guy.
None to the other guy, which is because they cut. No, that was really funny. Yeah. He goes, I'm going to give $10,000 to, his coach, Cobrinha now, and 10 to Kennedy. And then they cut to Kennedy and Cobrinha, and there's a guy standing next to them.
That's one of the coaches.
One of the corners. And, then Miranda and I both went, but not that guy.
Yeah, that guy gets nothing. He was the one who warmed you up before the match. He gets nothing.
It was just a very funny camera cut interaction. But again, yes. So do you want to talk about Kade's match? Then we'll talk about the match between Mikey and Kade.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was that. And then they bring Kade out and Kade and Mikey talk. And I want to talk about that matchup because that will be fun. That's in Denver coming up. Yeah. But Kade Ruotolo made his MMA debut. So that was Mikey Musumeci. He looked as good as always, looked phenomenal, finished Gabriel Souza in a rematch in like 2.5 minutes. Yeah. Like very quickly, very definitively. And when Mikey wants a sub, he wants a win, he is very capable of doing that, especially when he is upset at someone. Yeah. It's something we've seen him repeatedly be able to do is like dominate matches versus people that he has like a chip on his shoulder about. So note to folks that are going to fight Mikey, maybe don't piss the guy off beforehand. Because he seems to not appreciate that.
Yeah, he doesn't appreciate that.
Again, I'm a huge fan of Gabriel Souza and his work, but man, Mikey got upset. Yeah. Kade Ruotolo versus Blake Cooper. A little bit of striking. I was actually surprised. We typically don't break down a lot of MMA on the show because that's not really our forte. But typically, whenever a high-level jiu-jitsu guy makes his MMA debut, we'll cover the first or second match of their career just because it's usually very interesting as they kind of move out of MMA into the sport. Out of jiu-jitsu into MMA. Kade looked good. His striking looked pretty good. His clinch work looked good.
Yeah, it wasn't like the some of the other grappling people when they go into striking, they do windmills and other really bad striking techniques.
Yeah, you see it. It wasn't like beautiful, but it was very serviceable, very good.
No, and it was good because like he went for a takedown and coming up with a takedown, he threw a kick. Like he
threw a knee too.
It was timing wise, it was really good. Mm-hmm.
They get down, and then you made an interesting observation here. Once he actually takes Blake Cooper down, he kind of gets to his back, and then he does a really interesting thing with the way that he starts controlling his back. Yeah,
I said it was a reverse grapevine because that's what I like. If you think about a grapevine, when you grapevine someone's legs, it's the reverse version of that. You called it a...
had a name for it, and I forgot the name.
What did you call it?
It's like hooks, reverse hooks.
No,
I had a name for it.
No, you had a name for it. We'll think about that. But it was kind of like a reverse. He kind of went on the insides of his legs with his hooks and his feet and kind of pulled him out so that almost like a crab ride. Is that what you called it?
No, there's a name for it specifically. But
and
you made the comment of like, he's going to do that because he's a wrestler. He's going to give his back.
Well,
in the initial sequence.
Initially, when he gets him down, like they're on the cage. And most MMA fighters that you watch will almost use the cage behind them and then use that to kind of flip someone.
They'll kind of scrape you off and turn you.
Yeah. But instead of that, Blake Cooper kind of turns his back to Kade, which did not go very well. Then he just kind of sits to his butt and he kind of puts his legs on the insides of Blake's legs so that when he falls back, he can't.
He kicks his hips forward so he sits him down behind him, and then he can go. It's kind of like
what you would do with is it a balloon sweep? No. What's the one where you bowler behind him and then you kick the elevator sweep?
Kiss the Dragon.
Well, Kiss the Dragon too, but elevator sweep is the one where you go.
Yeah, I had it in our preview in the pre-show, and I could not remember what the term.
But anyway, there's a term for that. But he kind of holds his legs like that until he's able to kind of get his hooks and get his body triangle.
But it was funny. He didn't prioritize hooks, and that's one thing I like to see when guys make their MMA debut is that sometimes you'll see jiu-jitsu guys have like an IBJJF match, and you're like, you need to stop scoring down belly points on this guy. You need to stop scoring mount points on this guy. You need to like do MMA. And it was nice to see Kade here prioritize like, I need to get his back. I don't really care about getting these points first because there are no points in MMA. And you saw him prioritize the exchange in a way that would set up him getting the choke versus set up him getting these imaginary points. And that's one thing that we always kind of look for when guys make a debut into a different sport is like, what holdovers do they have from the thing that got them to the dance? That they are like wrestlers historically will give their back up a lot.
Well, or Marigali still grabbing like.
He'll look for like sleeves.
He'll
and
look
stuff
for
like
sleeves
that.
and shit. He'll still look for grips that
and
aren't there.
You can watch him do it, and you're like, it's really funny to watch. You like, instinctively, you've had 20 years of doing that. It's very funny to watch guys do it. It was very nice and refreshing to see Kade not immediately like scramble for hooks, but to look for this position to lock it down, to open the legs up, and then get his hooks in when he knew the hand position would be over top to get it. We had an interesting. So, anything else on that? You had an interesting note here.
Because he was cornered by Eric Paulson. Kade Ruotolo was. Which I was like, that's an interesting pick because he does savate. It's the French kickboxing. Is it called?
It's not called that, but
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
You've messed me up now. I used to do it.
Really?
Yeah. Our gym used to have like one day a week. But it's savate.
It's savate. Yeah. It's different than it's a different striking.
It's French
form.
kickboxing with shoes, and it was always great because they have these little shoes, and if you kick someone really hard, you leave the lace prints in their chest.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
It's not fun.
Okay.
It hurts
not
a lot.
But
salat, I think is what it is.
Salat. Okay, that's what it is.
Well, Eric Paulson's a catch guy. He's a catch wrestler.
He is. But he was. I mean, if you think about it, back in the day, he was a fighter. He fought.
Yeah, he was a very very good fighter for his day.
I mean, and he's had fighters like one of my friends when we used to go to California every summer.
You trained with Paulson a couple of times,
right?
Yeah,
he used to. My friend used to go down and train with Paulson, and he'd do pro practice at Paulson's.
Yeah.
And we used to go and watch because like we didn't want any of that shit. And it was always like the original like Ronda Rousey's friends, the Three Horsemen.
Yep.
That they would be there, and like the really large Asian judo guy.
Satoshi Ishii?
Yeah, he would be there. He was huge.
He's enormous.
And I'm trying to think who else. And there's a couple other
bunch of guys that stable there.
Yeah, and it was...
Paulson's no stranger to coaching.
No.
He's actually got a really interesting coaching strategy.
For whatever reason, I don't know who I thought Atos would be like, hey, this is who I want you to have as your MMA coach.
How much Kade and Ty are still doing a lot of their training at Atos?
Well, they still thanked Andre.
Yeah, of course. And
he's
the guy that gave you
but
the
I'm
black
still
belt.
thinking
that makes sense.
You probably still have Andre, like his input sometimes.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Like it just seems.
But they're
like
also
that.
in Costa Rica now. Like they seem to be kind of doing their own thing a lot from what I've seen. But having Eric Paulson as your coach was a very interesting.
Yeah, it was just like,
that's
Eric Paulson. I haven't seen him in a long time. Yeah. It was him and Tyler Warbles, who I did look up that guy. He has a bunch of like MMA fighters that are in different promotions.
But again,
no, I was just curious.
Looked good.
I was just curious who a world champion, if they transitioned to MMA, who they would have as their MMA.
Yeah, it's always an interesting eclectic group.
Yeah.
So he looked good. He finished it out. Anything else on the fight before we get into Mikey versus Kade?
No.
So Mikey versus Kade. So they brought after Mikey gave his speech after the post fight, they brought Kade out and they were like, "You guys are gonna fight." And he was like, and Kade was like, "Nah, man, it's awesome. They were against like two natural athletes." And I was like, "Good for you guys."
Yeah, and they were both really respectful and nice towards each other.
Because they are both guys that are not going to throw the first stone. I think cast the first stone is the way to put it. I'm really amped for that matchup.
I think Kade got in a little bit of a push fight with Blake Cooper at weigh-ins.
Did he? Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, I think they got so. I mean, Kade can go there.
Kade can definitely go there. Yeah,
I think.
But I think if you're going to be respectful to him, he's happy to be respectful to you. Is what it seems.
I think so too.
Again, they talked about Kade being bigger, he's about 20 pounds bigger than Mikey at least, if not a little more. I'm super excited for it. This honestly, we'll preview it as we get closer, but this will actually be kind of a tough one for me to pick. Yeah,
my only concern is that Kade isn't doing jiu-jitsu full time.
He's now doing MMA. He's making the transition. So I'm concerned about that a little bit. In my experience, when we've covered guys that make the jump from jiu-jitsu to MMA, if they're high-level guys like Kade is, there's usually like a 1 to 2 year period where they still can kind of contend at the highest level before they get 5 or 6 fights into their career before we see that drop off. So in my eyes, in my head, this matchup is going to happen in the next month. It's soon enough.
Is it
month? Sorry, it's September, isn't it? Yeah, sorry. Next couple of months. Kade is probably still going to look like a world championship level jiu-jitsu guy in that time, even if he is prioritizing primarily MMA. He has enough of that background. He's still in the sport. He's still prepping for ADCC. Like, he's still on the level enough where we're not going to see something like guys that are like Dorino. Dorino doesn't really do jiu-jitsu anymore. He only does MMA. And so we've seen like the gap between his jiu-jitsu and the MMA. Like, his MMA has gotten world-class and title level, but we're seeing like he has fallen out of the meta for the current jiu-jitsu. I think usually guys have about 2 years before we typically see that like drop off. So I'm not really worried about Kade initially. Even the guys like Tonin. Like, Tonin went MMA. He was still really high-level world-class, and then he's sort of had a harder time coming back into jiu-jitsu now that he's been prioritizing MMA for a couple of years.
He's also, him and Gordon Ryan are becoming the same person.
They look exactly.
They look
really similar.
They had at one point they cut to them during EBI, and I was like, "Who's that? Why are there 2 men that look like each other?" And then I realized who they
look
were.
Very similar.
Yeah, they look very similar currently.
So that good enough segue as anything. Let's move on to the recap, kind of pretty quickly of EBI. EBI 10th anniversary. Want to see was great. You should watch those 2 matches, but. EBI happened last week. It happened while we were recording the show last week.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't get a chance to recap it, so we're doing it this week.
They changed their get-down rule. So allegedly the get-down rule this time around was the first get-down rule, you go into butterfly, that butterfly position with both your underhooks. Mm-hmm. And then your second time, if you went to the get-down rule, you had to start in the bottom of mount.
I kind of like, if you're going to have a get-down rule, I kind of appreciate that it is, like, for CJI, it doesn't make sense for combat jiu-jitsu, but for something like this in EBI, when the positions in the regulation don't matter, I kind of like that they're forcing, hey, man, either get it to the ground or we're going to put you in a bad spot.
It's still a coin toss, so like, you could...
but that's kind of how... Again, I'm not a huge fan of EBI rules. We've been very vocal about that. I'm not going to beat that dead horse today on the show. It's not a straight up even grappling match. EBI is very much a make it for yourself or it is luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Like, so EBI is not trying to be like an open stance, like not open stance, an open like from even who's the best. It's trying to be a entertainment product that forces guys to finish. And it doesn't necessarily make for an even matchup. Yeah. But I don't think they're really trying to do that. And you go into EBI, you know the rules, you know how they're going to configure it, and you know that, hey, if I can't get this guy down, if we're unwilling to go to the ground, I may end up with this guy being mounted on me through no fault of my own, but because I was unable to get the match going.
And you also know that if you survive the entire match, you go into overtime.
Right, and a lot of guys play for that strategy.
And the way they also did with this was the first round, where all the first round matches were 6 minutes, and they went up to 8 minutes for semis and finals.
Which I think is great. I think 6 minutes is great. It's a little short in the EBI format, but it avoids the first round being like an hour and a half, which is historically been really problematic, and it leads to long, slow EBI cards. So again, if you're going to force guys to finish, put the guys that are going to win the first rounds should win the first round and should win them first quickly, which they kind of do. So I do like that. I think it's a good change. It's a move towards the right direction. Yeah. So let's go through the results here. First round, we had Giancarlo Bodoni defeating Austin Baker via straight ankle lock.
It was like 20-something seconds.
It was so fast, Miranda, that I thought Giancarlo had a bye because I watched the match from what the video from what I thought was the first match,
and you didn't.
And you were like, "No, it was like the first." I was like, "Oh, I missed it."
Yeah, and this was an actual
a rematch
from an IBJJF in the gi.
I think Orlando Open 2021 is what you showed me on the pre-show.
Yeah, something like New Orleans.
One of the places. It was one of the larger opens in the U.S. in 2021 in the gi.
Yeah.
But Giancarlo very quickly.
Yeah, New Orleans Open.
Yeah. Takes out Austin Baker. Declan Moody from B Team, the trials winner.
Yeah.
Defeats Brandon George via rear naked choke.
Dude, if you just want to watch Declan Moody do guard passing.
Yeah.
This match, he passes so many times.
This is kind of cool because, again, Declan's a guy that we know is good. He won trials, but you watch his trials run.
Did he win trials in Europe or did he win trials in Australia? Because he was born in England, but he lived in Australia, and he is an Aussie.
He won,
I think,
Asian trials, right?
Yes.
He won in the...
Did he do both? I don't remember.
But anyway, don't remember
I just thought it was really interesting that he, in theory, could probably do all of them. Because he was born in one, living in one.
How many passports do you have?
And then,
The passport question.
And then...
Usually guys do two, do two, like Taza and Majid, and like some of the other guys will do two trials, two different regions. Yeah. But this is cool to see Declan. Again, it was fun to see Declan because we know he's good.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see more of his game. Yeah, like, man, his passing looks very, very good.
Yeah.
So
very, very good.
And then it goes to again, short matches. It goes to overtime. He finishes pretty dominantly. I liked the hand fight at the end. Did a really good job. In the hand fight here, and that's something obviously he has worked on. He gets a rear
naked choke in the first round of EBI overtime.
Yep. Then we had Romero Leon defeating Abe La Montoya, A-Block guy. Montaña.
Yeah.
It's
mountain in French.
Abe La Montaña.
Yeah, it means the mountain.
Yep. In overtime.
Yeah.
Did he really get?
He did an 8-second armbar in the third round of overtime.
Yeah, it was quick.
Yeah, it was a very fast armbar. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then we also have in the first round here we had Big Dan Manasoyu. Shout out. Do you like little T to the name?
Do you like how I
appreciate,
because like that was one of those names that it always gets me. So I was like,
we literally had someone correct us 2 weeks ago and like sent us a message on the YouTube comments.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you've made it this far into the show, please like and subscribe and share the show with your friends. It is the biggest way that we grow the show, and it is what we appreciate.
And we do look at comments, so
I reply to almost all of them.
Yeah. If
you make a positive comment or a question, I in the last 6 months on YouTube, I have responded to it, and I thank you all very much for that.
And if we say your name wrong, you can always send us voice messages too.
Yo, the Europeans and the Australians are the best at that. We muck up a name, and I'll get like 4 Aussie voicemail messages. It's like, hey, here's how you pronounce his name. I'm like, thank you so much, Australian and European guys.
So like we try.
We try, and it's been very helpful over the 7 years doing this show. Yeah. But so this is Big Dan here beats Cesare Childre, who I haven't seen in forever. And last time we saw Cesare, I think the last time we covered him was he was on it Invitational, or he was winning.
Is he a local Texas guy?
I have no idea. He's under Boogie. He won Boogie's. Remember what event was Boogie's event? Boogie Ultimate Mat Warrior.
Yeah.
He won Ultimate Mat Warrior, and that's the last time I think I've seen Cesare Childre, or we've got a chance to talk about him on the show at any length of time. That being said, Big Dan has a really nice entry here into the legs and gets a heel hook in like 29 seconds. It's a really nice topside entry where Cesare tries to step around and over, and Big Dan does a really nice job tracking it, flipping, trapping both legs, and then finishing a heel hook very, very quickly. It was a cool match. It was, again, we know Big Dan is a very, very good leg locker. That was the entire match. Next, we have Ryan Aiken defeating Adrian Nez via armbar pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's... Ryan Aiken always surprises me.
Dude, he is really good at EBI. Combat Jiu-Jitsu and EBI. He's got, 2 belts at least?
Yeah.
He's a double champion, I think, in Combat Jiu-Jitsu and in regular, but it might be... I always forget if he has 2 combat belts or has a regular belt and a Combat Jiu-Jitsu belt.
I think he has one of each.
Okay, that's what it was.
I want to see he has one of each.
And they said it on the broadcast, and I'm blanking because his picture has both of them on, which is cool. But he consistently is a guy that surprises me with just how good his transitions and his finishes
and this wasn't the really fast one. This was the one that he got it in literally the final seconds of the match.
Oh, like 8 seconds left. Yeah.
Because Nez was playing guard for a while, and he kept on inverting. And Ryan Aiken is really good, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in one of his later matches, at understanding what distance to play with people. Mm-hmm. Like, to know you play deep on some people, and you play really, like, you play more...
shallow?
Well... I guess deep and shallow don't like in my brain. They don't make a lot of sense. Like you do a lot of outside passing with some people, and you do a lot of pressure passing with others.
Yeah, and the range, because certain guys are good at dealing with one or the other.
Yeah, and he knows how to find out what range to use and to use that. I think that's part of what
he's a very good data guy. Whereas if you watch him throughout a match, go okay, and you kind of figure out more and more and more about the range he should be playing on you before he's there.
Yeah, because he waits for Nez to basically turtle, and when he turtles, he goes after. He kind of flattens him out. And goes to north-south, and that's how he finally gets around Nez's guard. Because there's a couple minutes of him like trying to figure out how to get around the guard. Yeah. And then from north-south, he just kind of isolates an arm, and then like within the last few seconds of the match, he arm bars.
Yeah, literally, it's 8 seconds left, and he gets it. I was really surprised, and that's one thing I like about Aiken is like he's a guy that will kind of go for it late and has success when he does that. Yeah. Next, we had Franco Pano defeating Colin Sabino. Sabino.
I think Franco was the largest, one of the largest.
Franco's a big dude.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't see him next to Big Dan, so I don't know if he was the biggest, but he's a very large.
I think Big Dan's larger, but Pano is always. Every time I see Pano versus other guys, I'm always surprised how large Franco Pano is.
Yeah, and his foot sweeps are freaking.
Pano, sorry.
Like his foot sweeps are legit.
Yes. This was an overtime victory here, EBI overtime.
This is one where they both hit arm bars, and the one, so Colin, is it Colin?
Colin, yeah.
Colin goes first. He gets an arm bar in 8 seconds, and then Franco hits his arm bar in 5 seconds.
Yeah. Which is, again, one of the features of EBI, which make it sometimes kind of exciting, where you're like, he's not going to get it. Oh, he got it faster.
Colin was definitely much smaller than Franco. Yeah. So the fact that he armbarred him in 8 seconds was
which is also really funny because you're like, okay, he's not going to counter. This surprised me as well. You're like, he's not going to counter that quickly, and boop, and he comes back. Next, we had Fedor Nikolov defeating Romualdo Lucas via submission in overtime. Yeah, and that was
armbar
in the early of round second. Very quick armbar in round 2.
Yeah.
Like 3 set.
Yeah. He literally pulls the thing so fast that it's like. Did they even
and that's a strategy a lot of times. It's like guys will they'll either try to fatigue the arm or they'll immediately go and either they get it, they lose it, and it's a good strategy. And we know Fedor, I think, typically will be the quick finishing guy. Yeah. And that works out well for him here. Next, we had an interesting matchup that it was surprising because Amir Alam has been pretty inactive until the Quintet. 2 trials ago, this year.
Quintet.
Well, he did trials as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Quintet and trials, but he's been gone for a couple of years, and now he's back.
And he comes when he originally shows up because he was also the qualifier. Mm-hmm. So he won their they had the
in-house qualifier.
They had an in-house qualifier to get into
EBI runs a qualifier for the 10th Planet gyms, usually at Eddie Bravo's main school, and you can beat a bunch of guys in your gym in your organization to win a slot for Eddie's guys.
And he was the one who won. And when he initially comes out, he had what I can only refer to as old man glasses.
Yeah, he always
had these little tiny, and he pulls them off, and I'm like, dude, that guy looked very sophisticated.
He's like a professor for a bunch of years.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. That's why his shorts have the force times mass equals acceleration. He has a bunch of mathematical tattoos on him.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a very
this totally all makes sense now because he looks like your math professor.
Yeah, I think he is. What was he? He's very educated, very smart. And Josh Leduc, it was fun to have him versus Josh Leduc because we haven't seen Josh Leduc in forever either.
No, we see him as a promoter.
He's been running Zapatero for 8 years now, at least actually, probably more than 8 years. Prior to us doing the show, he ran an event with Craig Jones and Gordon Ryan, Zapatero 6, 2015 or something, way back in the day.
Amir, the last time he was on EBI was EBI 6, and that was the debut of
Gordon Ryan, the Absolute, which is crazy to put it in perspective of this is the 10th year of this event, and I've watched every single one of these. Yeah. And Amir made it on EBI 6 with Gordon Ryan, and that's crazy. So. This was an interesting one. Again, we know Amir Alam has crazy flexibility. He's a big dude that plays guard. Yeah. And he likes the gogoplata. And he finishes a gogoplata. The camera angle was great here on Josh Leduc, I think over his teeth, which is what it looked like to me.
Yeah, it was kind of over his face. It was definitely, it was a rough.
It was definitely you're crushing Josh's face into your foot, and Josh was like, I'm going to break my face.
And the way he did it, he had the arm locked, so it wasn't like, there was no leg around the back. So it wasn't even like if he would have wanted to like stand up that he could really get out of it, because his arm was locked in so far because he had gotten an underhook on Amir. And when he goes to get the underhook on Amir, he just like locked up that shoulder and went around.
And that's kind of how Amir plays this. There's like a very, very straight, flexible gogoplata.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do it in the way that a lot of the guys will do, where they'll leverage into their own knee.
Yeah.
He pushes away and makes a little bit of an angle so it looks less pressury on his knee.
Yeah.
And he was also a guy that he's extremely flexible, especially for a big dude, but it is
after
submission.
He hits the gogoplata, he kisses his own foot.
Yeah.
He pulls his foot up and kisses it.
Very flexible guy.
Yes.
Moving on to the quarterfinals. This was a fun one. Quick but fun. We had Giancarlo Bodoni defeating
It's not quick. It goes into overtime.
Oh, right. Notes. Right.
Notes read.
What was I thinking of then? Whatever, regardless. Yeah. Giancarlo Bodoni defeats Declan Moody via submission. This was EBI versus New Wave.
Yeah.
ADCC champion versus Trials winner.
But he wins in overtime.
Yeah.
By rear naked choke. What I was completely blown away by after watching how he passes guards so wonderfully was I watched Giancarlo Bodoni scissor sweep him. When's the last time you saw somebody get scissor sweeped in a tournament?
It's pretty rare.
I mean, that's one of the first. I know that's one of the first sweeps they teach you as a jiu-jitsu person. I do.
I use it all the time.
But I don't
It is my probably top.
Not saying
two most.
I mean,
sweeps.
I think part of it was also that Declan was like, "Fuck it, I'll just go into the legs." But
yeah.
So he didn't really care about it. But it was just. That was not the sweep that I expected to be seeing.
Yeah, it's one of those you chuck at, and then it kind of seemed like Declan got taken over by it, but also didn't really care and kind of was like, I guess I'll go into the legs.
It's
EBI. It
so
doesn't matter. Your top position, bottom position doesn't matter in EBI at all, and so it's like, cool, he sweeps me over. I'm into the legs now. I'm the bottom player on the legs. That's where I want to be anyway, because I'm in a better position to fight the legs now as the bottom player, so it doesn't really make a difference. It was fun again to see two guys going to ADCC at this level going against each other. But Bodoni, kind of the favorite here, takes it in overtime. Takes it. Next one we had Big Dan. Man, you spelled it out here in a way that I want you to keep doing.
I need to keep
Manasoyu.
Manasoyu.
Big Dan Manasoyu versus Ramiro Leon. Straight ankle lock. This was a classic.
They were teammates. I said this was a big man push to a straight ankle.
Miranda has in all caps teammates. Dan is much bigger in all caps.
Well, because if you looked at it, you're like, whoa. But, and I say that now, I think about it, and I think it looks this way because it was timed very well. Because it was like as Ramiro went to get like up and kind of get more above and like raise himself on top of Big Dan just kind of like kicks him down and straight ankle locks him.
And this is something we saw Big Dan use a lot, probably 2 years ago.
And I think
right around Who's Next.
Yeah,
time.
I think it's not as much of a big man thing as much of a timing thing.
Dan has really good timing into the leg. You saw that versus Cesare Childre, and like
I think it's a timing thing.
It's always been a hallmark.
But if you watch it, it kind of looks funny.
If you don't look at it from timing, it looks like just like a big guy pushed the look over and fangle lock.
Yeah,
That's kind of what it looks like. And then you see the timing and the nuance.
But once you kind of think about it, you realize that that's not exactly what happened.
Yeah. Oh, there's not a good spot for it. I just watched an interview from Big Dan this week talking about like belt progression. Super interesting take on it.
Really?
Yeah, it's like basically talking about like it was just complete non sequitur, but it's Big Dan. I don't hear a lot of interviews from Big Dan frequently, and it was him basically going, I'm a purple belt. He goes, I'm competing and beating black belts. I'm a purple belt because that is the level I am at in respect to my progression. He goes, when I get to the level where I am a black belt, it's like then that'll be the appropriate level of where I am at.
Well, that's a good way to look at it.
It was a really eloquent way to put that for like competitor belts versus other belts versus like the belts are less about people around you, more of like what your level and ability will be.
Yeah.
It was just a super interesting take.
You have a
I'm gonna steal it.
You had a black cat out the window that was staring at me and it was creeping me out.
Yeah, they do that. We have people feed the strays in the neighborhood, and we have, no joke, probably about 30. That is not an exaggeration.
It was just a random black cat staring at me in the eyes.
Almost all of them are black cats, and there's legitimately about 30 of them. So we have a couple other cats too.
So it's just bad luck in general.
Dude, so many black cats. But regardless, if you can find the interview, it's just a really interesting interview from Big Dan. We don't see a lot of interviews from him like that, and I thought it was just a neat like perspective from Big Dan here.
That's good.
As he's talking about his game and his progression. Next match, we had Ryan Aiken defeating Franco Pano via rear naked choke in overtime. This is where you talk about the get down rule.
Yeah, but the get down rule only happened once in this one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they did change it. But they did start in the butterfly position that was normal. This one, they kind of did. They would stand up and then sit down and then stand up and then sit down, and it was a lot of that. And
it was weird regulation.
And
match.
I think it was because Franco is very good with his takedowns. Mm-hmm. Judoka, right?
I always think he even if he's not, he plays like a judoka.
Yeah.
He plays like a traditional European judoka.
That's what
like a French
that's
judoka,
what yeah, that's what comes off as. He's at TriStar.
That makes sense.
Yeah, which would make sense.
Okay.
He and he's he's larger than Aiken.
Yeah.
So I think it was to Aiken's
kind of benefit to play
to play like that, where it's like broken up, where like if you think you're taking too long, you sit down, you play a little bit down there and get back up, and then take him into overtime.
Yeah,
because then he rear naked chokes him and like
wasn't super quick.
No, not super quick, but
it was
in the second
he was
round.
in control of that, and he seemed comfortable. And Aiken is a guy that is extremely comfortable with the EBI overtime format.
Yeah, but I feel like he played it well enough that it wasn't like it wasn't stagnant at any point, and it kept on moving. And at the same time, he knew he was with a bigger gentleman that he was going to have to either wear out or he was going to have to like not get stuck somewhere.
Aiken has good tactics.
Yeah,
like, and we see again, you don't win all these EBI belts. Like EBI is half of the match is tactics in EBI.
Well,
like other organizations,
the way he gets out of Franco's armbar is like he literally just like rips his arm out.
Yeah.
Like
lawnmower
and
defense.
he does
just lawnmowers it.
Yeah, he does it in a way that I was like, holy crap, like it's so good that you got your arm out.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's one of those like either you get it out or it breaks.
Horribly.
Yeah.
Like but
he's consistently done it like that though. And he's very good. He is probably one of the best guys that I remember seeing at that kind of escape. And it's one of those escapes where it's like, man, I love watching it. I would not
it's
one
of those.
It's
one of those where you have to be confident. You got to know what you're doing.
You also have to have really good positioning. Like
you got to know where you have the space to be able to do that and get away with it,
and have the timing to do it. Like it is not a low level armbar escape.
No.
He does it at a very high level, which is super neat. But that was that match to go to overtime. Next match, last match in the quarterfinals. Here we have Fedor Nikolov defeating Amir Alam via submission, and it was an armbar in overtime.
Yeah.
The round was kind of.
Yeah.
It was
back and forth.
Yeah,
they were kind of going back and forth, but nothing was really happening. Then we go into overtime and Fedor hits his armbar.
Yeah. Then moving on to the semifinals, we get a match that I was really curious about.
Yeah.
We had Big Dan Manasoyu versus Giancarlo Bodoni.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, I saw the results of this before I watched it, and I was going through. I saw this like, okay, I'm super curious about this, how this match goes. Big Dan heel hooks Giancarlo.
Yeah.
And the transition that he gets Giancarlo in is really good.
He hits a couple transitions on Giancarlo that are really good. Mm-hmm. And you see Giancarlo's facial expressions, so you know they're deep. Like, and he's fighting them.
You also see Giancarlo in this kind of go. At one point, it was really telling. You saw he didn't want to be playing into the legs with Big Dan. You could tell he was like, he's comfortable there. He was like, it was never like a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
It was just you could almost tell on his face that he's like, I just don't want to be having this match here. I want to go to some other place.
It's one of those F that fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Like, kind of moment. Like,
but you train together, and Big Dan is the big heel hook guy, the big leg lock guy. He's in your team. He's won trials with probably a significant amount of your help, given the level that Giancarlo's on. Like, you have trained this guy a ton.
Yeah.
He probably knows how good Big Dan is at heel hooks, especially in competition. And then the final heel hook sequence is great because they go back and forth. They're in like a leg-laced position with Big Dan going for the heel hook on the outside. He flips back towards the camera, and you can see Big Dan pummel under. And the hand pummeling here is really good. I actually watched this sequence a couple of different times with the way that Big Dan pummels his hands across. He is consistently very measured in the way that he is forcing Giancarlo to pummel his feet. Giancarlo will pummel his feet. Big Dan will get between the legs. He will pummel out. He will turn the leg over. He like consistently forces Giancarlo to keep defending in this rotary sequence. And then eventually he's able to turn the angle, get to the side, and then you see him take the heel and just go whoop. And you're like, oh yeah, that is in. You see Giancarlo's knee just turn, and he's like, I'm good. Yeah. And I think it's a verbal tap is what it looks like.
Yeah. And Giancarlo does like he's trying like that toe hold, the desperation toe hold.
Yeah. You're not probably going to get that on Big Dan. But in that way from that position. But really good leg lock.
And then Big Dan goes to hug Giancarlo and say, I'm sorry. And Giancarlo jumps a triangle on him.
Did he really? I missed that completely.
Like directly after the match, he goes down. You hear him both. They both mouth like sorry, and then you see him like get pulled down, and Giancarlo's jump a triangle on him.
That's funny. So at least they're good team. I always.
But it was playful. It wasn't like
fuck
that.
You, yeah.
It wasn't like that Craig Jones situation, which you don't know what the hell that.
Oh yeah, where it's like I'm trying to get spit out. That is one thing we don't get a ton of looks into like the dynamics of the new wave team.
Yeah.
So it is really nice to see these moments of like, all right, these guys are guys that train together, that care for each other in some capacity as teammates. It is cool to see Big Dan, hey, I'm sorry, and then like Giancarlo like to throw a triangle. I'm like, okay, cool. That's I like seeing those team dynamics because those are the team dynamics that I like, and so I like seeing that. Next, we had Ryan Aiken defeating Fedor Nikolov via submission, straight ankle lock. Was this one the one that was really quick?
Yeah, this was
like 10 seconds.
Like Aiken goes straight into his legs, inverts, and heel hooks him, and it's like
it looked like to me it was an ankle lock.
Was it?
It looks like what happened is Aiken immediately pulled. He goes up into a single leg X and then yanks to the outside.
This is the one where
Fedor taps him midair.
Commentary is talking and saying it's a heel hook, but they don't know, and they keep on going back and forth if it's a heel hook or an ankle lock. And I think I just typed whatever they said.
It looked like a topside ankle lock where the heel is starting to get free, where it's not Aoki. It's almost like a toe hold ankle lock.
Okay.
Where it's like it's free, but you just yank down. It was neat.
But it's quick.
It's very quick.
It's during movement, so it's one of those that you're hitting it because they're moving as you're kind of applying the rotation.
They're tapping as they're falling over. It was a neat ankle. It's very similar to the ones we kind of see from Mateusz Kaczynski.
Yeah.
Where it's like bop and it's done, and they're like, that's broken. Like I don't think Fedor got his leg broken here, but it was very very quick where you saw him like there was no hit the ground and hand fight or tap.
Yeah,
there was I am in the air, starting to fall and tapping, not like I'm through my fall and tapping.
Exactly.
Very, very quick ankle lock win, which is impressive. Move on to the finals. We have Ryan Aiken defeating Big Dan in overtime. Do you want to talk about the regulation here, or you want to move just to the overtime?
I mean, it's interesting because they kind of. This was what I was talking about, how I think Ryan Aiken does a really good job in this match precisely because he works to the outside. Like he never gets in when Dan is sitting on his butt. He never engages with that. He
never gives him his legs.
He does enough from the outside to move him around, so he's not like stalling. But at the same time, he's not kind of going in. And there's a couple times where in the beginning, there's one time where Dan is sitting and Aiken grabs one of his feet and tries to like heel hook him, and then ends up in the bottom and realizes, oh shit, I don't want to be.
He immediately goes, I'm not gonna play this game with Big Dan.
and Big Dan just passes him immediately. But Big Dan is never able to hold Aiken down, and Aiken can keep on getting back up, and so they do. There is a lot of exchanges, but at the same time, Aiken does good job at keeping that long range, so they can't really get a hold of him.
One of the things I really like about Aiken, and I think why he has won some of these belts, we talked about it a little bit in his earlier matches, is that winning an EBI is, because of the way the rules are set up, a huge piece of it is just tactics.
Yeah.
Of like, in a point scoring competition, you can you can get walked into holes that you can't get out of.
Yeah.
In EBI, I can just approach every match in the way to get me to the piece of the match that I need to win. And Aiken is really, really good at saying, man, I don't have to have super heavy pressure where I'm over top of Big Dan where he's going to get my legs. I can play this to the outside.
And the thing is, he also knows that all I have to do is get into overtime. And my overtime shit is amazing.
Yeah.
So, he knows he can take him to overtime.
He plays both in the regulation in a way that, like, hey, if I can win it here, I will. But he will also play it, hey, if I can't win in the regulation, I'm going to do enough and, like, look for an opportunity to win. He's not just going to stalemate you usually, which I appreciate. But he also is willing to take it to the overtime if that is tactically the best place. But he's not going to do it at the expense of just, like, stalling, which is, I really appreciate the way that he approaches the EBI stuff format. My wife's getting her stuff to go open up the gym, but she's going to open up and we'll head out.
Yeah, I'll take you over.
I appreciate it. So yeah, that was Aiken wins that in overtime with a rear naked choke. I was kind of surprised that he was able to rear naked choke Big Dan.
He goes right across it was a crank. Like, dude, he cranked the fuck out of him.
And it was also just really impressive. Like, Ryan Aiken has a really good hand fight.
Yeah.
Like, a surprisingly good, like, dynamic way that he will force you to trap the hands. And, like, you can tell that he has spent a lot of time working specifically EBI rules in his camps because he is consistently out hand fighting most of the guys, and he's doing it in a way where he's trapping you into, you're going to defend here, and then I'm going to get in front of your defense, and then I'm going to come over top of your hand and get the choke, and then I'm going to lock it. It's a really, it's a lot of times when you talk about technique, we talk about technique of like, oh yeah, he's drilled that a lot. You can tell that's really schooled or drilled, or hey, it's really organic. The way that Ryan does this, you can tell that it's hard to explain why. You can just tell he's put a lot of time into this exact sequence.
Because he knows if he puts his leg here, then or puts his hand here, then I do this. If he puts his hand here, I do this. And he knows basically what you're going to do before you're going to do it. And
it's almost systematic, but it's also, you can tell he's just put so much time into it that it becomes like, it's got the mix of like being a rote system, but also being organic enough to, when there is an opportunity, being able and willing to take that. He has that comfort to take it. It's interesting. Again, I'm not a huge fan of EBI, but moments like this are really cool from a technical perspective. When you see a guy that has put this much time into this particular hand fight, it's very interesting. Yes. Because Big Dan is, again, no slouch on the back.
Well, and the fact that he wins these tournaments and he wins the combat jiu-jitsu tournaments, which are a completely different skill set
very
when you think about it, shows that he has the ability to kind of understand rules and play within those.
And we see him do well in other tournaments as well. He just typically shines at EBI, and it's just it's been very interesting to watch his last couple of runs through these tournaments. And then he's a guy that this is the first time I'm really kind of picking up on his just repeatedly good tactics in addressing these matches. Like, he doesn't tend to make a lot of tactical mistakes throughout this. I would have loved to see him versus Giancarlo in the final here. I think interesting. Dynamics-wise, that would have been a tougher match, but the way that he plays it versus Big Dan is what you got to do to win here. So, great match. Congratulations to Ryan. Really, really tough tournament he had to run through, and super interesting.
Yep.
So that's EBI. We have a couple of super fights. We have Musab Raza defeating Sean Magnus via rear naked choke in overtime. Sean McCleary defeating Robert Rando via submission in overtime, and we had Lawrence Sears defeating Ali Wolski via knee bar. I love this knee bar. This is my favorite knee bar. What this knee bar is Lawrence Sears.
I despise this knee bar.
We trained a bit together for a while.
I know.
I chuck this at everyone. I love this knee bar. Basically what it is Lawrence Sears is outside knee cutting, and Ali Wodzik. Give me your last name again. Know Ali. Wolski.
Yeah, Wolski.
Has like a top side knee shield up, and Lauren grabs over top and then spins in front of there's two ways you can do this.
Yeah.
You can spin behind it, which is a smaller distance to get the knee bar, or you can step over their head and throw the knee bar to the same side inside, which is the way I love to do it because it was illegal for a long time. So it was always the way I like to do it. And what you do here is you fall essentially inside of the leg line.
Yeah.
And because they were playing guard with that leg as the top leg, you trap their bottom leg on the mat with your body, and they can't pummel their leg through to defend.
Yeah.
And so you're left with this really weird top side knee bar, but falling across their body. And Lauren Sears gets this very quickly, and you see Allie immediately go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. You saw the response. Yeah.
And she seemed very upset. Initially, it seemed like at Lauren, but then it seemed like kind of at herself. I couldn't really tell which one it was. They seemed friendly after the fact.
Yeah.
But it was a really great knee bar, and I love this specific knee bar because it works
sucks,
so well.
And it sucks because your hips are so controlled. You can't get away from it.
Yes.
And I have somebody at my gym that also hits it all the time. And you have to get out of this, like, as they're spinning, you got to move. Like,
even if you belly down through, you're not out of the knee bar, which is why I love this knee bar.
It's really hard to not get hit with.
Whenever I teach this knee bar, I always teach you have 3 shots on it. Yeah. You initially have the shot when you land. You have the shot when they belly down.
Yeah.
Up, like directly up in the air, like a tripod knee bar. And then as they roll through to start being able to get their leg free to push you off, you have one more shot when it becomes the low side again. And so if you do it well, you have 3 different pieces that you can shoot this knee bar before they are out. And it's extremely hard if you do it well to get out of it. So I love seeing it at a high level like this, and it was a lot of fun. It was, again, my favorite super fight of the evening. So that does it. Any other thoughts on EBI?
No.
I like the rule changes. Again, EBI is not like my favorite rule set for the overtimes, but I think that they've really pared a lot of it down, where we didn't have matches where it was like, okay, I have an 8 match, and then 20 minutes over.
We didn't have any that went to ride time.
Yeah, which is great. Whatever
which
they're changing is good.
Which showed that everybody was trying to get it.
Yeah,
the whole time.
I appreciated it. I liked it. This is how I would love EBIs to run in the future. If they run them like this, I think we'll cover more EBIs. Yeah. We'd moved away from them for a couple of reasons, but I really like the changes here, and I'm happy for their 10th anniversary show that, they're still around. Yeah. They're still paying guys out. We're still getting fun jiu-jitsu, and we're still taking away really interesting technical pieces from this tournament.
Yep.
So it was a lot of fun. Let's move on to
our preview
of Polaris 28.
Dude, I am so excited about this, just all around.
So I said this was a tournament. It's not a tournament. I had that wrong in the intro.
It is not.
Let's talk through some of these matchups.
Yeah.
You pause me if there's a matchup that you want to break down a little bit.
You're gonna know the ones that
I know the ones already, but I'm saying that for everyone. So we have Sam Quinn versus Ellis Younger. That should be a fun match.
Which is interesting because Ellis Younger is both of that. My brain just went, but no, this was interesting because I was looking at it. And Sam Quinn was somebody that I didn't realize exactly who he was at first. And then I was like, oh, that's that dude.
Yeah. Which always, again, unfortunately, sorry for all the European listeners, that is frequently something that happens to us where it's like, that name sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, that's this guy.
So,
okay.
yeah, Sam Quinn is an IBJJF guy. Mm-hmm. And he goes against Ellis Younger, who is the gentleman that just won ADCC European Trials.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that match will be fun because they're both young and they're both at the level where they still like fuck around and find out.
Polaris is great at doing European prospect matches.
I don't know.
They're great
because they're both still, I think, colored belts. So they both kind of still
they both
have
that raw. Like we've said it. I don't know if we said it for years.
But
purple belt matches are always like the most fun.
Yeah,
because everyone has. Sorry, you were saying?
No, same thing.
Everyone has. At purple belt, especially a high level competitive purple belt, they have that one like black belt level thing. It's like, oh, they're really, really good at that.
Yeah.
But they will also have, and not speaking to these guys.
Yeah.
A lot of like purple belts will have that area where it's like, oh, you're still not great at this thing yet.
Ellis Younger does the A block.
Yeah.
Like he goes into reverse guard, which is the weirdest position to ever put yourself into.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting.
It should be a really fun match. We also have another super fun match for the 70 kilogram title: Helena Cravar versus Jessica Tortilla.
Yeah,
this should be fun. Again, Cravar. Every single time we see Cravar, it's a step up now.
Yeah,
it's a level up. And again, Tortilla primarily IBJJF, looking very very good in the IBJJF, especially in the European circuit. In the IBJJF, has looked phenomenal. Yeah. I am not picking against Cravar. Until you are like Theon Davies or like Brianna Stay Marie or one of the top 3 or 4 women in the world in Nogi, Cravar continues to impress me every time we see her.
Yeah.
And we're always kind of curious if and something came out this week that I thought was really interesting. It was from her old coach. And it was, we've trained with Cravar for a while. she was never like a phenomenal athlete. She was always just a really hard work. No, it wasn't Cabrinha. It was.
She was with Cabrinha for a bit.
Prior coach. Okay. It was like she was. But it was talking about Crevar's like work ethic. Like she was never like just a phenomenal prospect or had like a special attribute. She always just put in a ton of work. And now she's with New Wave. It's really cool to see. With our prospects, we always kind of wonder, like, are they going to make that jump up to the next level?
Well, and we always
Crevar has.
We always wonder also if when they get to a certain age, are they just going to age out?
Yeah.
And just be kind of done.
Yeah. Are you 18, 19, and then you said, I want to go, like, do other life stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not super uncommon that people get to, like, 20 and, like, hey, man, I want to go, like, not be a jiu-jitsu guy. I want to go do other stuff. I'm not a kid anymore.
But she seems like she's going straight into it.
Oh, yeah. So this will be a fun match.
Career.
Again, I'm not picking against Crevar.
Me either.
Especially with the leg lock game. She's rounding out her game very nicely, but, man, like, good luck, everyone that's in her weight. And under 65 kilos.
Yeah.
Good luck. She's getting phenomenally good, and she is 17.
Yeah. Besides the fact she'll just triangle the crap out of you.
And she also has a great triangle match. Like we're starting to see her top game. I think in her last match on Pit Submission, we started to see a little bit of her top game, or maybe the previous match, and it's getting good too. Her passing's getting good. Like we're starting to see her be not
very
just
well-rounded.
Only a guard player, which until like this year she was primarily, even the first ADCC trials that she didn't win. She was a guard player, and now we're starting to see her take the lessons she had from that trials match versus, wasn't Alex Enriquez, it was Mo Black.
Yeah.
In the first trials that she lost, and we're seeing her be able to put the rest of it together on the top game. Dangerous combination if she's picked it up that quickly in competition. So, should be fun. It'd be a fun match for Jessica Tortilla, but I'm not picking against Crevar with the levels of improvement that Crevar has been making. Next one, we have Santeri Lilius versus Ben Bennett. I'm blanking on Ben Bennett right now.
He's a rising talent in the UK.
Okay. Santeri is the guy that has never lost an ADCC trials match.
Yes.
He's been competing a lot more too recently.
He
has.
I
really enjoy his aggressive wrestling game.
Yeah.
This should be super fun. Again, I love that Ben Bennett.
They went against each other at trials.
That's what it was.
It was the finals match. It's the finals match
that's
at
why.
trials.
It's like Ben Bennett looked really familiar.
Yeah. He was one of those gentlemen that we had never really seen a lot of, and then all of a sudden it was like,
yo, he's in a trials final match.
Yeah.
Should be fun. Again, go back and watch their first match at the trials with the first trials.
Yeah.
The first European trials. You can kind of see. Again, I expect a pretty similar dynamic from this, but it should be fun. Santeri just looks so good. I'm going to pick him here again just because if you go back and watch the first match, it was pretty definitive for Santeri. Or Santorini. I always want to call him Santeri. I think it's Santorini.
No, I think it's Santeri.
It is Santeri. Lilius.
Yeah.
Okay. Should be fun. Next, this is a match you want to talk about, isn't it?
Yes.
Next match, we have Yoel Soldier of God Romero versus Owen Livesey.
Romano.
No, Yoel Romero.
Is it Romero?
It's been Romero since forever.
I thought
No, it's not Ray Romano.
I might have. I wonder if Google messed that up. I was typing it last night, but it was late, so maybe maybe it is Yoel Romero.
It's only been Yoel Romero since
Romero.
Yeah, Romero.
Oh, okay. So I just put an R. Okay.
Oh, you added an A.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been watching Yoel for like 15 years now.
Yeah.
At this point.
He so he goes against Owen Livesey.
This is going to be a stand-up wrestling match, but we've seen this from Owen before. We took on Chris Weidman.
Yes.
But who's also fought Yoel Romero.
My only thing, Yoel is like not real.
Ageless and timeless is how we put it, Miranda. He's almost 50. Almost 50, and he's like, and we're talking about this because it could be a close match.
And he doesn't he's never popped for drugs. Has he?
He has not, but
I know. But how do you do that?
We call that Cuban genetics.
I know,
Miranda.
I mean, and he has a whole. I mean, Cuba wrestling in Cuba.
Oh yeah, Yoel has some wild stories about growing up and fighting for food in the wrestling in the tier system they had in the gym. So go back and listen to his interview. It's I don't listen to Rogan really anymore, but it was a Joe Rogan interview with him, Joey Diaz, and Yoel Romero.
Yeah, and Joey Diaz is doing the translating, right?
And he's doing translating not so great. There's a bunch of comments basically after that were in more depth explaining some of the responses that Romero gave.
Yeah.
But it's a super interesting interview, and as Romero goes through his childhood, like talking through all of like the training. I'm going Owen here just because I was really impressed with Owens versus Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
I think the dynamics of the style matchups are similar. Again, we haven't seen Romero, that A is still around every time, in a submission grappling match.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I would hope that
Owen's like 10, 12 years younger. Owen's what, 32?
Yeah, he's in his
30 maybe.
I want to say early 30s.
I think he's way younger than we thought he was.
Yeah,
but Yoel I think is 46.
Yeah,
or something like that. I think that Owen just on, I'm gonna pick Owen here.
Owen was born in 1991.
He's 33. Okay. 33.
Yeah.
I think this is going to look almost exactly like the Chris Weidman match.
Okay.
And I think that late Owen is going to surge. Typically when Romero surges, I think this is going to be a really slow, unfortunately boring match because of how Romero likes to play.
Yeah.
Go back and watch all of his third round finishes in the UFC where he doesn't do a whole lot and then explodes. That is, I mean, there's a whole highlight video from years ago that is just round 3 Romero.
Yeah.
And it basically shows like his share diagram and it scrolls down and it goes round 3. You see all of these round 3 and then it shows him all of these round 3 finishes.
It just means that Owen is going to need to like either push it initially, like off jump.
And especially with how Polaris does the scoring where they do it by round but they don't stop it. I think it will be very hard for Romero with that style to be able to win this.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be pretty clearly Owen, but the style matchup is interesting because Romero is an astonishingly high-level wrestler.
Yeah.
But he's older, and Owen is primarily a judoka, but has also incorporated a lot of wrestling into that recently with his ADCC runs, and we know that he can do it. He has really, really good timing and control, but I think stylistically this is very much Owen.
I think so, too.
I think it's going to be a clear Owen match. Romero could absolutely get behind him, but I just don't see a world where he is able to submit Owen unless he's able to get on top and control him.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to submit him. I think he might chuck him a few times.
Yeah,
it might be
we'll see a crazy sequence.
It might be some. I think we'll get some really fun takedowns out of this.
I think we're going to get like 2.
Yeah,
honestly, I think we're going to get 2 big takedown sequences, and then one Owen will clearly capitalize on.
Yeah,
and that will be it. Or
if Owen has learned that when you take someone down, you stay on them.
Yeah, he's got to cover. Yeah. He typically doesn't like to do. He kind of likes to watch his work a little bit.
Yeah,
but he gets that kind of from judo, where it's like you get the guy down and you don't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
There's not an initiative most of the time in European judo to like stay on the guy in American judo because there's such a higher, not reliance, but like looking for the submission. American judokas tend to like hunt really hard on the guy, whereas international there's a little bit less of that sometimes.
That makes sense.
And that's not universally, but in all the judo that I've watched over the years, that's something I've just noticed is a little bit more. And that's probably 10 years ago information, but when I was watching more judo, that's what I was seeing.
And actually, this next match is probably
fun as shit.
I'm as excited about the Yoel match as the
Mateus Szynski versus Levi Jones-Leary.
Yeah, I just called him Levi. That's why I was like, that was my pause. I went, because I said, in my brain, I said Levi, and then I was like, but that's not right, Miranda. And then I was like, but how do you say that? But yeah.
This is the match I'm most excited about on the card.
Because I'm curious if Levi can bolo without getting ankle locked.
That you have asked the question that I have.
Because
it's like, this is a one of two things happen match.
Yeah, this is he can bolo or the other one can leg lock. And that's what's going to happen.
That is the match. It's either Mateus Szynski, ankle locks, toe holds, Levi Jones-Leary in transition.
Yeah.
For the bolo, because we know Levi Jones-Leary.
Yeah.
Levi Jones-Leary is going to do one thing. He is going to bolo you and take your back, and that is all he is going to do. And that's all he ever does.
And in Polaris, they can sit, right? I believe so.
They've changed the rules a couple of times.
Because
I think they can now.
Because both of them are just going to sit, and then it's going to be.
I think you need contact, but the GP rules versus the super fight rules are different, and I forget what they are now.
Because in all honesty, you know what's going to happen. They're going to touch and sit, and then they're going to they're going to play with legs.
And then Mateus is going to try to break his leg off, which he absolutely can do.
Yeah,
he absolutely can do that.
And we'll find out
if Levi Jones-Leary is going to bolo.
And we'll find out if Levi taps. Because he is
He's from Unity.
And
Unity guys do not tap the
they
leg
don't
locks.
tap very well.
I'm going to pick Levi Jones-Leary here. I think Mateus will be one of the more dangerous leg lockers he has ever faced.
But I think he also is in the room with...
That was my second point. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in the room with Junie and the Meows and, like, other guys.
Well, he's in Australia right now.
With Lachlan.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went Lachlan.
That's what I mean. Man. So I don't think it's...
Mateus can absolutely leg lock anyone. Like, that's... Look what he did to Jed Hugh.
Polish Mateus is one of my favorites. Yeah. The fact that he's in ADCC makes me happy.
It does make me happy, too. I think that Levi Jones-Leary takes his back and chokes him.
Yeah.
But seeing a very, very quick leg lock victory from... Well, like, not like necessarily quick as early in the match, but Mateus at one point just gets the foot and breaks it off. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But I do think that Leary takes the back here.
I'm going to go with Polish Mateus.
By break? By leg break?
Why not?
Okay.
Let's go.
I'm going to go with Levi Jones-Leary by back control mirror choke.
Okay.
Either I think he's going to get the sub here, but I do think that he will get the back at one point in control and be able to control Mateus Szynski.
Yeah.
But again, Mateus Szynski has proved me wrong many a time with his crazy ability to do great jiu-jitsu and leg locks. Should be fun. We also on this card have Stevie Ray versus Jed Hugh. We just talked about Jed Hugh.
Yeah.
It should be fun. It'll be... I always forget how big Jed Hugh is. This should be a fun match. I'm gonna lean Hugh here, but Stevie Ray has been on Polaris a couple of times and always like kind of not surprised me necessarily, but like had very good showings.
And they love him. The people seem to love Stevie Ray.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, I really like Jed Hugh's game.
I think Jed Hugh. I think he's a higher level competitor.
He's a higher level and a little more consistent.
Yeah.
But Stevie Ray at any point in time could make that jump, and I think this is a really good matchup with Jed Hugh to be able to kind of have that benchmarking move up if he can do it.
Yeah.
So it will be fun. Something about this. They may have gone against each other before. I don't remember.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this now. I think this might have been a rematch, but we also have some great prelims on the card as well. We have Julian Espinoza versus Jack Sear. Should be fun. We also have Shane Curtis versus Shane Fishman in a battle of the Shanes. We're always a big fan of Shane Curtis. He's got some really, really fun submissions and a bunch of other...
He's the goth lock.
He's the goth lock.
Which I don't even know what the goth lock is. I just know it exists.
Forgot, but it's a fun sub. Yeah, so that is... we also have a bunch of other people on the card that, again, Polaris always comes out. I love covering Polaris. I love the way they format their tournaments. It should be a lot of fun this next week. You next week?
Yes, I'm here next week.
Sweet. I'm going up to Jersey this week to corner one of our fighters, so that will be fun. So we'll do it probably after that for next week. But yeah, that's all I got. You just went to a Nicky Ryan seminar.
Yes, I did a Nicky Ryan seminar yesterday. It was fun. Like he taught a lot of small. I'm happy I'm at the level that I am, that because when he showed how to do passes, they were like 50 sequence passes. So if you already knew the pass, at least you knew like the beginning of what was about to happen, and so then you could tweak.
So you watched a bunch of blue belts and purple belts kind of glaze. You're like,
so
you were like,
no,
okay, I see what he's doing here.
Yeah, no, there was and you could tell, and so it took a little time getting through some of them, but it was things that I needed, because when I try to pass, like you sweep me, he showed how to not get swept from.
We will see
the things that I know.
We will see more.
We will see. I haven't rolled with you in a while, so we'll have to do that sometime. But taught that.
Look, my wife's up at the gym right now, Miranda. We could go.
I know, but I trained this morning.
That's right. I didn't train this morning.
And then the other thing was in his question and answer, he went over some really like stupid little things, like, so if you're in half guard but your legs both get pushed to one side together, how do you get your guard back? He said you take your outside hand, you grab your knee, you pull your knee to your chest, and you circle your leg back. And I did that twice this morning, and it worked. Huh. And it was the weirdest little thing.
That's why I like seminars. Like now, for stuff like that, where it's
know what I mean?
Let's do this. You're like, that.
He did that. And then the other one was he taught like how to break posts when you're in. So when you pass to north-south and they're like posted up on you, and how to get past those posts. Because I always just try to duck my head and get around them. And he taught like you drop one of your hands and then you drop your shoulder and you just drop, because once your body gets angled, because once you come to like an offline angle and you just drop, their posts can't hold you straight up anymore.
They have to turn, so the posts are gonna fall.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, like, and that was the other one. I was like, huh, that works too. And there were like little things. I was like, huh, didn't ever think about that before.
Again, Nicky Ryan always gets brought up as like people in the room talk about just how much of a crazy technician he is.
Oh, you could tell.
It's cool that you're taking a seminar and you can kind of pair. Yeah, in fact, the hype is real.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm excited to see him at CJI.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting because he's the guy that everyone universally at B Team talks about. Like, dude, he is so crazy good in the room that he can kind of like half train half the time and still like technically just demolish everyone.
Yeah, he was talking about how his diet sucks.
That not surprising.
He was like, I need to gain weight, but I just eat crap all the time.
He play Fortnite, Call of Duty, and then eat crap.
Yeah, but great seminar. If you get a chance to do a seminar with him, I would say do it.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of upset. I would have probably gone had we not been doing everything I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
he's one of the guys that I actually really think I would get a ton out of, just because I kind of, when I've heard him break down his own matches before on the B Team YouTube page, I always find it really, really insightful and succinct how he is doing that.
Yeah, and he broke down how he broke
JT Torres' foot. Did
Did
he break it?
He broke it.
Oh, really?
He said he heard it crunch.
Gross.
He said in the match you can look at his face and see when it breaks.
You can see him go.
Yeah.
Ugh, gross. I hope JT heals up. I like JT, but yeah, it is. I'm very, very excited to see those folks in Vegas coming up soon. Anything else fun this week you got going on?
I don't think this week. I think I'm supposed to do New York Open or New Jersey Open, but there's no one in my brackets, so I think I'm doing commentary work with our friend.
Because I now have to go corner one of our fighters, and so I cannot commentate next week. So you're gonna go
with
Zach
and
in Virginia.
My car keeps on breaking, so it's good to get extra money when I can.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, go fill this commentary gig in.
Yeah,
you and Zach will commentate at Copa, Virginia, which is great. And then I will go corner a young fighter making his amateur debut,
that'll be fun stuff.
Which will be fun because I get to drive to New Jersey, a place that I have to go sometimes.
Lots of circles.
So I got nothing else, Miranda. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host Maine, joined by co-host
Miranda.
And we got the Grappling Rewinds here on the mat, where it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.